For 3 years, the Frostmark Passage had stayed quiet under an uneasy truce, a truce Commander Alan Cass never fully trusted. Korvac briefed a routine ice patrol, the same route flown for a decade. Nothing, by every report, had changed out there. The planned route kept them well inside Nordholm waters, a margin Korvac insisted on, given how close the disputed line really sat. What radar first logged as drifting ice returned, on a second sweep, as something far more deliberate and far larger. Cass counted the contacts twice before she trusted the number, a Kesk formation nearly 4 times the size of any patrol before it. Within minutes, every Nordholm vessel within range of the passage was ordered to general alert, uncertain what exactly they were responding to. Rurik Thane had planned this crossing for over a year, convinced that decisive action now would settle the passage dispute for good. Hold position, report every movement. Cass brought her ship about at full power, aware that whatever came next would happen faster than any drill had ever prepared her crew for. Captain Ilsa Draven had run this exact scenario in simulation a dozen times. Nothing about today, she told herself, should feel different. By mid-morning, the entire Kesk formation was committed to the passage, the largest single naval movement the region had seen in a decade. Every Nordholm vessel within 2 hours' range was ordered to converge on the passage, though none would arrive in time for what came first. In the fishing town nearest the passage, residents heard the sirens before any official word confirmed what was happening offshore. Whatever happens, stay sharp. For the first time in living memory, a Nordholm crew had direct visual contact with a Kesk fleet inside the Frostmark Passage itself. Draven's orders were explicit: hold formation, make no first move, and let the Nordholm ships decide how this encounter would go. For several minutes, both fleets held their distance, a narrow, fragile window in which the entire passage still hung on restraint. That restraint ended when a Nordholm patrol boat fired a warning flare, a signal meant to deter, but read by Kesk command as provocation. Hold formation. Do not fire first. By noon, the Frostmark Passage held more warships than it had seen in over a generation, and neither side had yet fired a shot. A single patrol craft, caught in shifting ice, drifted closer to the Kesk formation than any commander on either side had intended. Warn them off, nothing more. What Draven intended as a warning, the patrol craft's crew read as an attack, and radioed exactly that back to Korvac's flagship. They fired on our boat. Return fire. Within 90 seconds of the misread warning shot, both fleets were exchanging real fire across the ice for the first time in decades. Target their forward gun. Fire. Thane absorbed the news without visible reaction. The standoff he had hoped to win through pressure alone had become open combat. Every shot fired in the passage carried a second danger neither fleet had trained for, ice thin enough to swallow a ship whole. Draven's gunners drew first blood within the opening minutes, a hit that damaged, but did not sink, the smaller Nordholm craft. For the fishing families watching from shore, the smoke on the horizon confirmed a fear the town had lived with for years. Took a hit, still with you. For the first time that morning, Cass's discipline slipped, the fear of losing the man who had trained her outweighing everything else. Barely 20 minutes in, Thane's assumptions about a quick, contained skirmish were already proving badly wrong. Thane committed a second wave of vessels to the passage, hoping numbers alone would force a swift, decisive end. All units, hold the line. Do not retreat. What remained of the Nordholm line fired everything it had left, buying minutes for reinforcements still an hour from the passage. Draven was ordered to press the advantage directly, a mission that put her, for the first time, on a collision course with Ellen Cass. Not past this line. Hold. What followed was the single most evenly matched exchange either commander had faced that day, neither able to gain a clean advantage. By early afternoon, the second Kesk wave had reached the engagement, the Nordholm line now badly, dangerously outnumbered. Korvik faced a decision no manual prepares a commander for, which vessels to reinforce, and which to accept losing. For one brief moment, Cass held a clean-firing solution, the kind of opportunity most commanders only get once in a career. Draven's instincts saved her ship by seconds, a maneuver that would define the rest of the engagement for both commanders. Second wave incoming. With reinforcements from Kesk Command still inbound, Korvik made the only call available: pull every vessel back to defend the approach. In the fishing town, evacuation began without any formal order, residents moving on instinct as the fighting drew closer to shore. By midday, the war for the Frostmark Passage had narrowed to a single question: could Nordholm's fleet hold its own coastline? Cass brought her battered ship back to the defense line, one of the few vessels from the original patrol still fully operational. Shore batteries opened fire for the first time that day, defending a harbor never designed to withstand a real naval assault. Concentrate on the harbor. We hold. Draven's ship pulled back just long enough to rearm. The engagement, she realized, had already outlasted every prediction given to her. 3 Kesk vessels had already been damaged or lost, a cost Thane had not budgeted for in an operation meant to end by nightfall. The second Kesk wave arrived just after noon, meeting a Nordholm force now defending with barely half its original strength. Losing power, Cass abandoned procedure without hesitation, redirecting every available hand to keep her failing ship in the fight. Draven was back in the fight within minutes, a turnaround her crew would later call the fastest of the entire campaign. In one piece, ordered to stand down by the very man she wanted to protect, Cass faced the hardest instruction she'd received all day. For Bjorn, along the harbor wall, a small defense company held a line meant to be defended by 3 times their number. Rather than withdraw and reassess, Thane chose escalation, committing his reserve vessels to force a decision before dusk. The reserve wing's arrival brought Kesk's total committed vessels to nearly triple what Nordholm still had operational. By early afternoon, Nordholm's defense had been reduced to a fraction of its morning strength, fighting a battle of attrition it could not win by numbers alone. Then we fight with what's left. Their second duel lasted almost 4 uninterrupted minutes, an eternity at sea, and a testament to how evenly matched the 2 commanders truly were. You fight well, Nordholm. After nearly 6 hours of continuous fighting, the harbor wall finally gave. Nordholm's last outer line of defense was gone. Formal evacuation orders finally reached the town, hours after the first families had already begun leaving on instinct. Bjorn Yeri was pulled to safety with injuries that would end his time at sea, but not, as it turned out, his part in the war. Fuel critical. All units, disengage and return to harbor. Draven saw the retreating Nordholm ship as one last real opportunity and pushed her own damaged vessel to its structural limit to catch it. With no fuel margin left for error, Cass attempted a maneuver she had only ever practiced inside a training simulator. It was Nordholm's own shore defenses, not Cass's maneuvering alone, that ultimately forced Draven to break off her pursuit. Next time, Nordholm. Cass's ship reached the harbor with less than 5 minutes of fuel remaining, one of the closest margins the fleet had ever recorded. For a brief moment on that battered dock, the two allowed themselves something the day had offered almost no room for: relief. Beheld. Barely. By nightfall, Kesk's own losses had already exceeded every projection given to Thane before the operation began. Draven later admitted that the day's fighting had quietly changed something in how she understood the mission she had been given. As darkness fell, an uneasy quiet settled over the passage. The first pause either side had allowed itself in over 12 hours. One day into the war for the Frostmark Passage, Ellen Cass had already lost more than she'd expected to lose in an entire career. We're still standing. Korvik's staff worked through the night, aware that whatever came at dawn would likely be Kesk's final, decisive push. Thane committed every remaining asset to a single, all-or-nothing assault, planned to launch at first light. At what cost, though? By 0500, both fleets understood the same thing. Today's fighting would decide who controlled the Frostmark Passage, one way or another. Cass prepared for her fourth engagement in under 24 hours, running on adrenaline where rest should have been instead. Every operational Kesk vessel committed within a single window, the largest coordinated assault of the entire campaign. Nordholm answered with everything it had left, a smaller force, but one with nothing left to hold in reserve. What followed became known simply as the Second Engagement, the largest single naval battle the Frostmark Passage had ever seen. For nearly 40 minutes, the passage held more warships engaged in combat than either side had ever committed at once. Against every order to rest, Bjorn Yeri had returned to the bridge one final time, determined not to let Cass fight this battle alone. For the first time in her career, Draven hesitated at the exact moment her training told her not to. With both fleets fully committed and neither willing to withdraw, the second engagement had become a battle of pure attrition. Almost out. Ellen, hit bad. Stay with me, Bjorn. Proud of you, kid. The hit that struck Bjorn's station at 12:52 nearly took the whole ship with it. For a long moment, the outcome was entirely unknown. For several seconds, Ellen Cass simply stopped fighting, grief overtaking every single instinct her years of training had built. A medical team reached Bjorn within minutes, giving Cass the one small piece of hope the moment desperately needed. On shore, the last defenders held a final line barely 300 meters from the town itself. Send everything left. By early afternoon, Thane faced a question his orders had never accounted for: whether the passage was still worth what it was costing. Cass and Draven met for the third and final time that day, both fighting with everything each of them had left to give. This ends now. I hesitated. The half-second hesitation was enough. Cass's crew finally held a clean, unbroken firing solution. Draven's ship went dead in the water at 1441, becoming the campaign's most senior Kesk vessel disabled in a single engagement. Cass did not order a finishing shot, choosing to let her disabled rival drift rather than press an advantage she no longer wanted. With his rival commander disabled and his reserve fleet decimated, Thane ordered the fleet's full withdrawal at 1510. By late afternoon, radar operators confirmed what no one had dared to report first: the Kesk fleet was withdrawing. After 31 hours of continuous fighting, the first battle for the Frostmark Passage had ended, not in victory, but in survival. Ellen Cass's ship docked for the final time that day at 1547, one of only 6 Nordholm vessels still fully seaworthy. Where's Bjorn? Is he alive? Bjorn Yeri was confirmed stable at 1603, with injuries that would end his time at sea, but not his place aboard Cass's crew. No promises, kid. Nordholm had held, but at a cost Korvik would spend the following weeks explaining to a grieving nation. In the fishing town, the all-clear sounded just after sunset, the first quiet the harbor had known in over a day. For Rurik Thane, the withdrawal marked not the end of the campaign, but the beginning of a longer, more careful one. Next time, no hesitation. By the following morning, the fleet had already begun the quiet ritual of naming its losses, a list mercifully shorter than it could have been. Cass would later say the hardest part of the battle wasn't the fighting itself, but the hours afterward, alone with what it cost. Not over, within a week, the harbor was operational again, rebuilt by crews working double shifts under the same skies they had defended. New crew arrived within days, training now under officers who had, until recently, been trainees themselves. Quiet mornings make me nervous. Within Kess command, the failed crossing was already being quietly reframed, not as a defeat, but as the first phase of a longer campaign. Draven requested reassignment to personally train the next wave of officers, determined they would never repeat her own hesitation. Within a month, fishing boats had cautiously returned to the passage, a fragile normalcy resting on a ceasefire nobody fully trusted. They'll be back. We'll be ready. What happened at the Frostmark Passage was not, in the end of the story. Intelligence suggested it was only the beginning.
Within a month, fishing boats had cautiously returned to the passage, a fragile normalcy resting on a ceasefire nobody fully trusted. What happened at the Frostmark Passage was not, in the end of the story. Intelligence suggested it was only the beginning.